Okay, so I just want the economy to last until Saturday so I can buy the new Pokemon games, because I'm afraid it's going to go down with this whole The shutdown's supposed to go to November. You all know that, right? November. Oh, hold on. We got to call her in. Hello?
Hello, I'd like to speak to the Wolfhound, please.
This is he.
Wolfhound, how was the comic convention?
Oh, awesome. Like, I bought a lot of stuff, but I wasn't willing to bring them in because I'm afraid of people stealing stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What you call it? Was Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock there?
Didn't see him, but I bought, like, some Star Trek pajamas and a tribble.
You bought a Tribble?
Yep.
The Trouble with Tribbles?
Tribbles.
What, did they have a Star Trek exposition there?
Mainly, I just stayed in, like, the tag shop area buying a bunch of stuff.
Yeah?
There wasn't anybody to give out autographs or anything yet. Like, it's just... The Comic-Con just started yesterday.
Oh, and how long is it gonna run?
I know it's going to be a Sunday, I know that. But you have to have a ticket, so...
Oh, yeah?
And they're really tight up there. Like, I had to give them my card to get in. So then, like, I made a mistake on the escalator, so I had to look through my bag to find the card again. And even when you're leaving, you have to check out with the card again.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's something.
But yeah, so, like, I'm leaving. Like, we need your card. What? But the exit's right there. Why can't you let me leave? So I have to look through my bag, have all this stuff. It's really...
Yeah.
So if you're making sure you're going to the Comic-Con, make sure you have your ticket in your pocket at all times so you don't have to look through, like, Dragon Ball Z action figures or Scouters or My Little Pony merchandise.
This is at the Jarvist Center?
Jarvist Center. The place is huge.
Where is the Jarvist Center?
It's down somewhere in Manhattan.
Yeah? And how did you like the Jarvist Center?
Oh, well, there was line, like a long line.
Yeah?
But it doesn't beat the line for getting the Dragon Ball Z Scouters.
Wow. Well, I'd like to change the subject, Wolfhound. What you call it? It's about the conformity that we see in our society.
Oh, yes, conformity. The whole thing with we're letting our government do whatever it wants.
Well, it's the whole idea of going along. There's a poll out now done by NBC and the Wall Street Journal that 90% of the respondents blame the government shutdown on the Republicans. And the only problem with the poll is that it was of government workers in Washington. But that'll change public opinion. Too often now, public opinion, the go along, get along crowd, what you call it, uses polls to make news. The news that they want, they do a poll on, and they get the results that they wanted for their conclusion. It's no longer that polling is a sample or a snapshot of public opinion. Now public opinion is being shaped and molded to what the powers to be want as the conclusion. And right now, the powers to be in the United States is the media. We're driven by the media, which affects public opinion, which affects behavior in the public space because of these aspects.
But what do you think of the whole concept that we're actually to blame for our government because we're quiet, we allow them to get away with this evilness they do? So we're just to blame. Like, you would say, like, are you familiar with the Pilgrims Theory about the electric shots and stuff?
Oh, yeah, Stanley Milgram.
So what happened with the thing is these patients and the teachers had to shock someone whenever they gave a wrong answer. And the only excuse he had was the authority people told him to do it, even though it was causing extreme pains. Or like, well, they told us to do it. We had no choice. So the whole thing is, the devil made me do it is not an excuse because they did it. There was nothing to stop them. Nobody forced them. They just said, please continue.
One of the things they did in the Pilgrim experiment is that the testers were dressed in white coats, so it gave them a kind of authority that they would be able to influence the people. But they actually had people and recordings that people were being shocked, even when the recording said that they were having a heart attack. And it just proved that people will go along with a normal situation, even to abnormal lengths. But Stanley Milgram did that experiment at Yale University.
So the question is, are the people who did the shocks at blame? Is it their fault? Like, is it our fault we let our government do it because they're authority figures?
It's still their responsibility. You can't negate individual responsibility. There was a very famous book which started the social psychology movement, which was called The Mob, and it was written by Lamont. And he said that the overwhelming urge of people in a large assembly was to form themselves into a mob, and they would have a mob attitude. And that's why we would have lynchings, because people would get into this mob mentality, and they wouldn't use their personal responsibilities. Things that they never would have done in a million years on their own were totally all right when they were in the mob.
The whole frustration, reaction, and the de-individualization theory. So,
well, it just shows you how dangerous mob mentality can be. We saw an example of this with the road rage incident with all those motorcycles and the beating of the driver in the SUV. The people who were riding the motorcycles formed themselves into a clique, and they had the concept that they were taking over the road. And consequently, when it came to the beating of the driver, so many people jumped in because it was part of what was going on. It was that go along, get along mentality. And I think that was a perfect illustration of what Lamont said in The Mob. That was a mob that beat that motorist on the West Side Highway.
So what you're talking about is how people go into the party to be a part of something. I'm talking about how people just stand by and let things happen. Like, for instance, how Adam just let Eve eat the apple and said nothing. I'm trying to see, is it saying we have no choice in our government? Because my excuse is we have no choice in the government, our say doesn't matter. Is it really just its fault for that?
There was a very famous case in New York City criminal history that happened in the 1960s. It was called the Kitty Jenaveeves case. And she was a woman who was out late at night, and she was attacked. And literally 100 people heard her screams and her plea for help, and not one of them called the cops. Not one of them intervened to save her. And the social psychologist who did the investigation, Harold Kushey of Fordham University, wrote his thesis on it, and he said that what happened in the Kitty Genevieve's murder was that people didn't want to be bothered. People abrogated their personal responsibility towards this woman who was obviously being assaulted, and they let her be killed. And she was killed even though she made several attempts to get up the stairs, to bang on windows, and hundreds of people literally heard her scream and did call the cops.
Well, I think we really got to point out to the listeners. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, thank you, Wolfhound.
Oh, do you know what's on Turner Classic Movies tonight?
What's on? Do you know?
No idea.
Well, it's the horror special. It's the spotlight on horror. And one of the best vampire pictures that was ever made is going to be on at 8 o'clock on Turner Classic Pictures. It's the horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushey. It's a classic. And if you love vampire pictures, this is one of the ones to see. It's really worth it.
All right, look forward to that.
Okay, take care, Wolfhound.
Adios. Okay, so we're really trying to get this point of conformity out. Like, the devil made me do it is not an excuse. Now, just for anyone see the new South Park episode, it was crazy. Honestly, it was crazy. It was about how all these people did with this psychotic white kid